Welcome into Hog Zone with Locked On. I'm Alex Stewart, and we have a ton to talk about tonight. I mean, combined, we have 87 points in the Arkansas versus Texas A&M Southwest Classic, played in Fayetteville for the first time since 2013. Now, this one, if you look at that score, boy, you would think that it was a great game, and you know what? You'd be absolutely correct. Now, Arkansas, just to kind of give you a run through, we're going to try and break it down. I mean, we can't go play by play, score by score. We'd be here all night, but just just looking at it as a whole here, Arkansas was down early. They found some heart, they found a will, they found a way, and they came back, they fought, and that is what we really wanted to see from this Arkansas team. Not a lot of people were giving the Hogs a chance in this one against Texas A&M, just because A&M comes in. They're the number 4 team in the country. They've been steamrolling everybody. They're undefeated in SEC play, and as of tonight and this win, they are now the only undefeated team left in the SEC. But we can get to that a little bit later in the show. But Arkansas looked like a completely different team than the one home fans saw against Notre Dame before the bye week. This team, against what many were calling a superior Aggies team, fought. They competed right with them. And at no point did it look like that they were outmatched. I mean, you go down the numbers and it's a little bit ridiculous. Talon Green, 256 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Arkansas, 268 yards on the ground. This was a great one, and there is plenty to talk about, and so I'm going to need some help doing that. So let's go ahead and bring in Tyler Cass, Nick Luttrell, both out at Razorback Stadium. We were all out there, guys. A little bit rainy early on, but it did not rain on the parade of the game. Absolutely wonderful for the fans, and as I was kind of talking to before we popped you on here, I think seeing the fight from this Razorback team is really what the fans wanted. And because of that, because they saw what they wanted, they were engaged from quarter 1 till the clock hit zeros today.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alex. They saw what they wanted probably until the clock hit zeros. They wanted at least 3 more Arkansas points to extend this thing. But I want to go back to kind of how you phrased it earlier. Arkansas showed fight at home. That was the biggest step forward to me, because I'm going to push back on, I've seen lots of people on social media and whatnot saying, oh, they're finally showing fight under Bobby Petrino. This team fought against Ole Miss. This team fought against Memphis. This team fights a lot on the road for Sam Pittman, and then they would turn around and have a dud at home time and time again, including, of course, that fateful Notre Dame game. And then we saw them last week go on the road to Tennessee, a really good ranked Tennessee team, and fight. Yeah. But we'd seen that. We had seen Sam Pittman teams do that. Fight on the road against a ranked opponent and come up short. That's old hat for this Razorback program. We expect it. Bobby had them come at home and show some of that same fight. And, listening to Petrino's press conference after the game, he's definitely not taking a moral victory from that. He even said, we fought, but we didn't have the outcome we wanted, and that's not what we want. We want to fight and win. But for the Razorback faithful, who still showed up, after the drubbing against Notre Dame, after the firing of a head coach, after a torrential downpour, that led to a 2-hour rain delay. Yeah. They were there. They were loud, and they were there until the end because this Arkansas team gave them a reason to be there until the end. And that's kind of what has been missing the last couple years, seeing that here in this building, outside, of course, of one game against Tennessee.
Yeah, I would slightly disagree in the fact that you're saying on they didn't fight. And I think they fought in a lot of these games, except for the Notre Dame one. In the Sam Pittman era, they fought, and they had a lot of these games at home where they fought, but they just made silly mistakes. They had a lot of turnovers. And then that's something they didn't do today. So if you want to talk about, put a positive spin on it, they didn't turn the ball over at all, which was a huge thing. The flip side is, on defense, they didn't turn over Texas A&M, which has been the problem that the Arkansas defense had last year and is having again this year, is turning over other teams. And Petrino was asked about that in the post-game press conference on, how can you do better for your defense to force those turnovers. He said getting to the quarterback, and that goes to the defensive line, and that's Arkansas's weakness. For their entire team, it's a defensive line. It's depth on the defensive line. That was a big issue today for the Razorbacks. We can blame it on some things on the offensive side of the ball, but it was defense. It was a defensive line. It was the run defense in particular that really struggled for Arkansas against a Texas A&M team that is really good, but weren't they without their starting running back, or at least one of their best running backs? So that factors into it, and they still couldn't slow down the number 4 team in the country. So
yeah, and you bring up the defensive line needing to get to the quarterback, and Petrino even specified they were getting beyond him even. Like, they were getting upfield, but too far upfield. You got to, keep your wits about you. Turn inside, and he's not exactly a guy you want to be able to let out of the pocket at all. So all kinds of issues still for this Razorback team, but some steps forward in the little things, just not enough.
Well, just watching the game, right, I would like to talk a little bit more about the defense, as Nick alluded to there, right? It's hard to win football games at any level when the defense is giving up 45 points. And you look at that on face value, and it's like, oh my gosh, what were they doing out there? But I made the comment in the press box, and it might be a little hard to understand here, so I'm going to try and phrase it properly for you folks at home. But yes, they gave up 45 points, but it felt like this week all 45 points were earned. They didn't give away any easy points. There was no big, large, explosive play again and again and again. They made them work for it, did the Hogs. The Aggies had to matriculate the ball down the field. Yes, they hit a shot play here or there, but that's just the game of football. But Arkansas made them work for those 45 points. And you look at the defense, they were tackling better. They made a couple really great open field tackles on plays that could have been an explosive play and might have been a few weeks ago. You look at the coverage. The coverage was a lot tighter across the board. And I think for me, my biggest takeaway watching the defense, time and time again, I would see them communicating. Dix or Sword would be like, hey, you're over here, go over there. No, we shift there. The secondary's talking to each other. They're making eye contact. And I think those are the things that you want to see out of this defensive unit for Arkansas that, again, gave up 45 points, and it's hard to win when you have 45 points put up against you. But man, oh man, I really like what I'm seeing from that unit as a whole, and I do see growth.
Yeah, I think if you want to look at the growth from a defense that, like you said, gave up 45 points, it's kind of, not to go too vibes-based here, feelings, but usually with this Arkansas defense, you're begging for a stop. I'm talking about a possession. Just one possession where the team doesn't score. Today, it felt like you were begging for a stop, but you just needed one play. They were getting the Aggies to third downs.
They were
down to fourth downs, and they couldn't get the one play. So it is progress. It wasn't like, oh man, this whole possession's a bust. But it's still just that last step to, because look, this Arkansas offense is putting up points with the best of them. Like, very literally, this is a top 5 Aggie team that might be very well be top 3 next week. And Arkansas put 42 points on them. But when the defense can't get that one stop for one play every single time, this is not a team that's going to win a lot of games.
That's why when I kind of looked back at this game, it was different. And I mentioned this earlier. It was different than games we've seen in the past where they fumble at the end and they lose the game, where it just breaks your heart. This was just like a slow burn. You kind of knew it was going to happen. At least that's how I felt. You knew just the way Texas A&M's offense was clicking and converting on third downs and converting 3 of 3 for their on fourth down conversions. Just those little things that just didn't go Arkansas's way that we've seen so often in this series with Texas A&M and Arkansas. The little things just don't go Arkansas's way. It never has in this series, except for 2021. Yeah, it was. It's not. I think this maybe proved a little bit. It's not the Jerry's World Curse or anything like that people want to make up. This is just, and maybe it's a year-to-year thing because that's how it is with college football these days. There's not much, the same people on the roster from a few years ago as it is for this year. But it's just a lot of things factor into this.
Yeah, it might not have been the Southwest Classic, but it sure felt like classic Arkansas A&M with, so much stuff happening late in the game and then just not quite going Arkansas's way.
Yeah. Definitely Southwest Classic. More emphasis on the South this year, though, and maybe the Classic. I'm not sure. For Aggies fans, perhaps maybe not so much Arkansas. But to your point, Tyler, just a couple stats here. The fourth down efficiency, you said they just need to make one play, right? A&M was 3 for 3 on fourth down, 5 of 11 on third. So to your point, they were getting the stops. They just needed one more on one specific play. And then to further back up your Arkansas offense playing with the best of them, 42 points, 527 total yards for the Hogs. They're moving the ball, and I'm quite sure we'll talk more about that Hogs offense on the other side of the break. But guys, just to quick wrap us up here, maybe your first initial thoughts just from as we're talking about this defense here to wrap up.
Yeah, pretty much what I said. It went from stop them for a possession to stop them for a play, and if we're moving in the right direction, hey, Auburn, you could probably stop for a couple of those third downs. Heck, maybe even get a stop on first and second and set up third and long.
And that would be my challenge for Arkansas going forward is, okay, keep improving. Keep going this direction as far as defensively speaking. Offense doing great. Defense, keep improving. Make those stops on third down and fourth down. Pressure the quarterback. force those turnovers, continue to get better, and maybe you can win a couple games.
Well, that's going to be hard to find on that schedule, but I'm sure we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. For now, though, we got to head off to a commercial break, but when we get back, I promise we'll talk even more about the Hogs' 45-42 loss to the Texas A&M Aggies. Welcome back into Hog Zone with Locked On Razorbacks. Alex Stewart here, and we are talking all about Arkansas's 45-42 loss to Texas A&M earlier today. The Hogs, with that loss, dropped to 2-5 overall, 0-3 in SEC play. Now, we spent the first part of this show talking all about defense, or lack thereof, today. This next part, let's go ahead and talk about the offenses, which were clearly explosive. Joining me now, Tyler Cass, Nick Luttrell, live from Razorback Stadium, where the Hogs offense went hog wild. Taylon Green threw for 256 yards, 3 touchdowns. But I think where I want to start, guys, is the rushing attack and how appropriate. More rushing yards than passing yards today. This the day that Arkansas honored number 5, Darren McFadden, an all-time great, legend of the gridiron in Fayetteville. He got his number, not retired, because we don't do that here, but honored up there on the, I believe, the south end zone. So you can see a big red number 5 when you go to Razorback Stadium. But the running backs absolutely dominated today for Arkansas. Mike Washington, 16 carries, 147 yards. Taylon Green, 12 carries, 85, 2 touchdowns. And then Braylon Russell adding 4 carries, 36 yards. For a grand total, if you guys weren't keeping tabs, 268 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground. See, Tyler had, he didn't need me to do it. But guys, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better performance from these running backs, and to do it in front of an all-time great, you just know that they were motivated to come in and eat today.
Yeah, I was mathing right there along with you, Alex. Don't worry. And yeah, I mean, I'll start with the guy you guys start with, Mike Washington. Yeah. Right from the get-go, too, just electric on the opening drive, got Arkansas down inside the 10. When we talk about, I assume, issues of the offense, we can talk about what happened after from there. But for now, staying with the positive, Mike Washington, and like you said, with Darren McFadden watching and smiling along on the sideline, and D-Mac actually gave us a fun little note before the game. He wore number 5 because he couldn't get his original choice of number, which was 4, which is, of course, what Mike Washington wears. So it's just kind of fitting all around that he showed out in front of you. I was trying to see if you guys could see the 5. It is on that far scoreboard there. The fence, the depth perception, the fact that it's on the other side of a 100-yard football field. But trust us, if you're inside Razorback Stadium, you will see that big number 5. I'm a person who thinks they should just retire the jersey. Yeah. It feels like we're just kicking that can down the road a little bit. But yeah, they'll also have a patch on every number 5 jersey honoring D-Mac. It all just feels right. And yeah, I mean, the only real issue I had with the Arkansas run game sometimes was why they didn't do more of it.
Yeah, I feel like they could have fed Mike Washington a little bit more, and Braylon Russell. Braylon, I like the way they utilized him kind of in that fullback role, to where they had usually it's where Maddox Laster is, I think, making a big block or something, but they would just sneak it and hand it off to Braylon. He got a couple big runs there. He almost had a touchdown, I think, in the third quarter maybe at some point. Ended up being the Taylon Green sneak after that.
They thought he got in. They set off fireworks, actually, prematurely.
They did. And he was clearly, a few inches short, but shout out to the fireworks guy. But Braylon Russell, they can still utilize him more than 4 or 5 of those little fullback carries. I think he maybe caught a pass as well. I can't remember
Which I
exactly.
want to see more from all of the running backs.
Yeah.
Getting them involved in the pass game, I think, will be a big help.
Yeah, and I think Taylon Green looks for them at times, but at other times he stares down a receiver like Omega Blake, like a Raylan Sharp, and doesn't look for those wide open receivers like we saw him miss on that 4th and 1. That was a really big play that swung the momentum a lot, where he just missed. I think it may have been Rohan Jones, just completely wide open down the, not completely, but a few yards away from the defender.
Bobby Petrino's favorite 4th and 1 play.
Everyone knew it was coming, and it was about to be awesome. But Taylon Green Taylon Green just overlooked it. And, there's just issues with him, and there's some really good things he does. But he makes the offense really good, but he also makes it kind of bad sometimes.
Yeah, and
so
talking
it's just hard to...
about Taylon in the rush game, yeah, he put up the big chunk of those yards on that final, last-ditch effort there. But just good to see in general, because right before the first half ended, Taylon went down, 15 yards in front of me where I was filling behind the end zone. He tried to plant his foot. It was too wet. Had to be helped off by the trainers. KJ Jackson came in for a play, and then that was the end of the drive, so he had a whole drive to wait. Did not seem like he was suffering too many ill effects, able to, still both sling it and run it, so always good to see.
Yeah, and that was a little obviously scary when you're quarterback and probably your best player on your team goes down like that, watching the replay, it was like, did we see any kind of Achilles? Did we see the calf move? Making sure none of that happened. Thankfully, it didn't. He came back out with that knee brace. I was kind of watching him after he was walking off the field after the game. He was a slight limp, very slight. So it's one of those things I think he'll be just probably 99, 100% for this Auburn game. But at the same time, we saw an injured Taylon Green play all of last year.
That's
pretty
what I was
much.
going to say. They kept telling us you didn't even know how injured Taylon was. So.
He was, and he still put up a lot of really good numbers. So, yeah, hopefully he's healthy, because I think the potential that he can get, and if he can improve and take out those plays where he just runs backward for 20 yards, if he can improve in those regards. Like, think about how many rushing yards he'd have if he didn't factor in the sack yardage. He got sacked like 6 times, I feel like, and I don't know, man. Just it's just unbelievable to me that he can be so good and so frustrating at the same time.
It's the Taylon Green experience, baby.
Yeah.
Well, see, the interesting thing with Taylon Green, right? I can't be the only one that thought it when he got injured. First off, everybody's thoughts were, oh no, I hope he's okay. Then when you saw him limp off and you started thinking about it, you're like, why am I getting deja vu? Taylon Green gets hurt in a game in October against the number 4 ranked team in Arkansas. You flash back to Tennessee and the outcome, and people were thinking, maybe we can make it happen again with a backup. Didn't happen this time, but your mind naturally had to go there. But you guys touched on a lot of different things right there, and something I wanted to go back to was that 4th down call and sort of talking about where the offense can get better. I wasn't a big fan of the Bobby Petrino special. Tyler, to your, I think, initial point, you said, I want to see them run the football more. And I thought that was kind of where Arkansas could set the tone. Say, we trust our running backs, we trust our offensive line, we think we're bigger and better than you, and we can pick it up. They obviously went with the Bobby Petrino special. It's great if it works, but you're questioning it if it doesn't. In the same line of going for things and not converting, somewhere else I think they could really improve is 3rd down. They were 4 for 10 today on 3rd down. Now, that could be due to length. It could be due to play calling. It could be due to poor execution. But you're not going to win many games with a 40% conversion rate on 3rd down. So Arkansas, I don't know. I just feel like they need to get a little bit more efficient. They did convert 1 of 2 4th down plays, that one a little bit later in the game. But the efficiency for as good as 42 looks, this offense can be even better, and that really could be an encouraging sign to fans that they're great right now. They could be elite with just a few minor tweaks, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, it's hard to put anything on the offense, considering how good they've been this year and how bad the defense has been. But that might be what it takes. If the defense truly is, they are who we thought they were, then the offense getting just that little bit better. If they got 4 points better this week, 4 points better a couple weeks, we'd be talking about an Arkansas team with a winning record right now. And that is the biggest worrisome thing in my brain is that 3rd down, because that was like the strength of this offense for the first few weeks of the season.
Right,
I believe at one point, either week 2 or week 3, they were number 1 in the nation in 3rd down percentage. And obviously that's gone downhill. And look, Bobby ran his patented 4th and short play against Arkansas when he was at Missouri State a few years ago to great success. He ran it with Arkansas enough. I think they know what's coming.
Yeah, well, that's just what we've come to expect, that aggressive play calling from Petrino. Another thing that I was waiting to see when they would go for the 2-point conversion, because they were always like down by 11. So I was like, it's going to happen at some point. And then it happened. I felt like at a really good time. I know Arkansas lost the game, but let's look at positives here. I felt like it happened at a really good time where Arkansas had the momentum. They scored. They cut the deficit down a little bit. And then it was a really good play call. I think it was I don't know if it was an option, but it was a fake handoff to Mike Washington and then a little shovel pass to Rohan Jones to get him inside, and that ignited the crowd. I think that, again, cut the deficit down to 3 or something, and so that got some momentum, but then your defense just can't hold on for another drive. Texas A&M scores, and that's just where it comes down to is the defense, really. But struggles on both sides of the ball, too.
I'd say I completely agree with you, Nick. I thought that was the absolute perfect time for them to go for 2. You don't want to go too early in point chase, but you don't want to go too late and you're wondering what might have been. Know what you need and know it with enough time. And we know that our time is running short in this block, but don't worry, we'll be back with one more. Wrap it up, maybe look ahead to what's coming up on the schedule for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Well, Welcome back into Hog Zone with Locked On Razorbacks. I'm Alex Stewart. We've been talking all about Arkansas's 45-42 loss to the number 4 team in the country, the Texas A&M Aggies, who now in conference are the only undefeated team left, 7-0, while the loss drops Arkansas to 2-5 overall, 0-3 in SEC play, which we're going to get a look ahead to that, guys. But first, very quickly, your final thoughts on this game that Arkansas just played against Texas A&M, or your biggest takeaway. You guys pick.
I mean, as much as things change, things stay the same. That was kind of my big thing last week was, man, that just looked like a Sam Pittman game. I will say, though, even though it's a one-score loss to a ranked opponent, the lack of turnovers, the fight at home, and the fact that the offense scored points in the second half are all positive things. We've run out of moral victories this season. That's what happens when you lose 5 games in a row and 4 of them are by 1 score. But we can still find positivity in loss. Now, this is very much a team that could only win 1 or 2 games or no games the rest of the way, with all that being said.
All right, so you're going to be an optimist. I guess I'll lean towards being a pessimist and just say I think back to the fan impact on this game tonight. And I know there were a lot of Aggie fans, and that was probably frustrating and everything. But there was obviously a lot of Razorback fans being a home game. They showed out for, again, like you said, the last time Arkansas played here, it was really bad. It was atrocious. It was one of the worst games that I've seen them play at Razorback Stadium. But still, Razorback Nation came out. They were at this game after a 2-hour rain delay, and they were fired up and they were ready to go. The fans were. The team, they were okay.
But the fans stayed. That's the big thing.
The fans stayed, which was good. So I just think the fans do deserve better, and I hope it comes one day for them. I really do. I don't know if it's Bob Petrina that's going to lead them to the promised land, or it's Dan Mullen. I don't know who.
0.0.
Look, I think my biggest takeaway, if I can sneak it in here real quick, is just the fight. This team, not a lot left to play for. They knew they weren't going to make the playoffs, not the SEC championship game, but they came out and they showed heart. They wanted to put what they could do on film, and I think it really showed. Again, 45 points, not a great look, but inside of that defensive performance, I did see improvements, and that is something that they can build on. Now, we talked about SEC play, looking at the rest of the schedule. Coming to town next week, one of the 2 teams below Arkansas in the SEC standings, that would be Auburn. They dropped to 0-4 in SEC play tonight, 3-4 overall. My producers tell me we're running short on time, guys. I was going to look at the rest of the schedule with you, see where we could pick up some wins, but I think next week we can all agree here, maybe the Hogs' best chance the rest of the way to get a W, very quickly.
Yeah. Next week or the week after that. Auburn, Mississippi State at home. You got to win one of those 2, hopefully both.
And I think Arkansas does have a chance against an Auburn team that they should beat.
Well, there you go. Auburn kicking off from Razorback Stadium, 11:45 SEC Network next Saturday. For now, though, that's us on Hog Zone.